If you want a really strong deck that has a fantastic matchup spread and is just overall really consistent and will definitely be a meta contender heading into the release of Lorcana, then this is the deck for you. If you're new to these videos, here's a glossary. If you're interested in any of these things in particular, then there's the timestamps. Go ahead and click on them, and there you go. Key cards of this deck are Rapunzel, Hades, Stitch, and Mickey Mouse. Rapunzel is arguably the best card in the set, allowing you to heal any one of your characters and drawing a card for each damage healed. This is a fantastic mid-game tool that will allow you to refill your hand and keep the momentum up, especially in a mid-range deck like this, where you just want to keep the pressure up until you close the game out. Next we have Hades. Hades is arguably also one of the best cards in the whole set. Allowing you to have single target removal late on in the game is such an effective tool that is overlooked and will win you so many games because it essentially buys you a free turn in the later stages of the game. Stitch is another one of those late game tools that allows you to refill your hand, basically saying if you have 2 or more other characters in play, you can draw 2 cards. It's a fantastic tool to refill your hand and find more answers to what your opponent plays. And then the final card we've got on the key cards is Mickey Mouse. Obviously, I just mentioned 2 7-cost cards, which you're not going to get to every game, but with this card, it makes the chances of you getting there a lot higher, allowing you to ramp up into the later stages of the game very quickly. Mickey is a fantastic free drop, and Sapphire's favourite card. This is a deck list. It was featured in my Meta Decks for Day 1 video, so if you've not seen that, it's on the channel, go and check it out. As long as you are prepared to learn this deck, I feel like it'll be a fantastic, consistent deck that you can honestly use for the whole set. Just this list alone is rank 3 on Pixelborn, so very high rank. Obviously Pixelborn isn't the greatest thing to go for at the moment, but it's the best we've got, and this is the 60 that we have today. Main combos for this deck are Hades and Hades. So the Amber Hades can loop itself. The card says when you play this character, you can return a character card from your discard pile to your hand. So that includes this Hades. So you can play Hades, have it die, play the same Hades again to bring the one that just died back to your hand, and then when the new one dies, you can replay it. So you never run out of units to play as long as you find 2 Hades, which is really good. The second one is, I just mentioned how good the Hades is for late game, where you can single target remove anything on your opponent's side of the board. You can combine that with the song Let It Go to basically activate Hades effect twice, turn after turn. And that's just a fantastic late game tool which will allow you to close out games a lot more than your opponent would like. For the Mulligan, with a mid-range deck, you want to get going very quickly. So we have Stitch, Flounder, Felicities, Simba, and Mickey. Turn 1 drops are always good. You just want to get presents on board as soon as possible. Both of these cards have the same stats, so you know, they do the same thing. We don't run the Shift Stitch, so it doesn't really matter, you can run any split of these. You can use Simba for a defensive turn 2, or Felicities as an offensive turn 2. Either way, they're both fantastic 2 drops that allow you to answer your opponent's other 2 drops very effectively. And then obviously we've already spoke about Mickey. Being able to ramp into the late stages of the game is such an effective tool, and this card does it perfectly. For the matchups, we have Emerald and Sapphire in the favourable. For Emerald, they're going to want to play aggressive, and your board should be strong enough to deal with that, and then survive that tempo, and then just close out the game that way through control tools, such as the Hades and the Let It Go that we've previously mentioned. We have Sapphire in the favourable as well. They want to ramp up, so it's kind of the opposite of Emerald. They want to ramp up, and they'll do that too slow, and by then you would have closed the game out and established so much of a board that by the time they play anything, you can just respond with a Hades or a Let It Go, and you should close the game out that way. And then for the 3 even matchups, we've got Steel, Amber, and Amethyst. This is basically just whoever can control the board early will win the game. Against Steel, you have to deal with tools like Tinkerbell and Grab Your Sword. Whereas against Amber, you'll be having to deal with cards like Rapunzel and Simba, which are also in your own deck. And then against Amethyst, you're going to have to deal with the relentless amount of card draw and recursion that the ink has. But overall, it just kind of comes down to who can establish the board the quickest and close the game out. Then we've got Ruby and Unfavourable. This is because you have to deal with tools such as Be Prepared and Dragonfire, both very annoying cards, and if Ruby gets to that late stage of the game, they will almost definitely win because they have so many control tools to just make sure that they have complete board control from that point onwards. That's it for the deck breakdown. I'm going to be on some gameplay now. Hopefully I can show off the deck a little bit more. Other than that, loads more to come, so like, comment and subscribe. Okay, heading into game 1, we're going first here. Mulligan looks to be somewhat decent. Mulligan is definitely one of the things in Lorcana. If you've not played a game with Mulligan before, you're definitely going to have to get used to it. I'm not too good at it myself personally. I would say you kind of want to look for turn 1, 2, and 3, like I said in the deck breakdown. And I feel like if you can start off with a strong turn 1, 2, and 3, then you're probably looking quite good, to be honest. So we do have a turn 1 and 2. Hopefully we can draw into a turn 3. We have 2 either fates, so I know I can ink one of them to start with. So that looks good. It's looking to be quite promising. We do have Hades already in hand. Holding your late game stuff after Mulligan is fine, especially if you can't ink it, you don't really have a choice. But yeah, I'm fine to keep that. We have Jasmine to heal up if we do take any damage. Obviously we can't really with Felicities. So we do have 2 either fates, and I don't see myself using 2 of them, at least not for a while. So I can ink that and play a Stitch for the turn 1. And I'm happy with that. There is always the argument of going first and going second. Do you want to have the first turn, or would you rather have the extra card draw? I'd say there's arguments for either in each different deck. But I'd say for this deck you're not really bothered too much. The opponent does look to be playing an aggro style deck. They do play the Maleficent in there. So they have only showed us that they're playing Amethyst. So I can be pretty sure of that, so I know what cards to kind of play around. They're going to have a lot of card draw, so we can ink this Robin Hood. Like I say, I don't think we're going to be needing 2 of them. We're not playing against an evasive deck by the look of it, so that should be fine. And then we can play the Felicities just to get an extra unit on the board, and I can quest with the Stitch because I know it's not going to get traded. And the next turn, if they quest with the Maleficent, I'll be able to hit with the Stitch into the Maleficent, and we should be looking quite good from that point of view. We don't have a turn 3 drop though, so that's something to keep in mind. There's another Lilo, so they have 4 quests on board. It's quite scary. Very good start for them. There's a Pascal. At least now as well, we know they're playing an Amber Amethyst deck. And there's another Maleficent, so a really rapid start for them. There's our turn 3 drop. I think I can go ahead and... the Robin Hood is our only form of card draw actually. I think I'm good to ink the Eye of the Fates. And then I can go ahead and actually play Maximus and give this Maleficent 0 attack, so our units won't take any damage. And then I don't mind hitting into it with the Felicities. I don't mind if it gets traded. And then we can just quest with the Stitch. Don't mind if the Felicities get traded because that means they're not questing, and that's basically what they want to be doing. They want to be getting to their win condition as soon as possible, so it's my goal to stop that. Inking a Stitch there. Don't have a turn 4 drop, but I'm okay to skip turn 4 just to ink. We have a very good board compared to them at the moment. They do have a lot of quest points heading into the next turn, but there's nothing I can't deal with. There's a draw 2, so they're not playing any units this turn, so we're following our game plan quite well. But so are they. They're already at 6 out of 20, which is quite scary. There's a Stitch for us, so I can totally ink this Robin Hood. My thought process there is because Jasmine is a lot better. Basically, if you don't know what the Jasmine does, it heals every character you have for 2 every time it's played and when it quests, so very good. On that front, we can use our Stitch to trade into Lilo, our Maximus to trade into Maleficent. That keeps both of our units alive and gives us a really strong board. And then we can quest just for the 1, just squeaking in the extra quest points whenever we can. And also we know that this card isn't going to die unless they have like a Rafiki or something, but they would much rather trade into the Maximus instead of the Felicities. So that's a free quest point there. Always important to keep in mind what quest points you can get throughout the game. There's a Lantern, so I'm expecting a kind of a bigger unit this time. Maleficent is going to allow them to draw another card. Only 2 hit points and only 1 Lore Pip, which is great for me. I can ink this Stitch, which it might have been good to keep actually, but I'm going to go ahead and play Jasmine and heal all of my units back up to full health. And then I can quest with all of them. And as you can see guys, this deck is just so good at having the ball control from a very early on, even against an aggro deck like Amber Amethyst, which is looking to be a very strong deck in the meta also. We have such a strong board at this point. I think we are happy enough to keep going on from this point. Basically, we have very strong. If they quest with the Maleficent, we can just hit it with the Maximus, and then Jasmine can heal the Maximus back up. So our cards aren't getting damaged. We're just solidifying this board state. We don't have a next turn, but that's totally fine. I could have kept the Robin Hoods and I could have kept the Stitches for the more card draw, but I definitely against aggro want to prioritize keeping this board as strong as I can. Inking of friends on the other side, so that tells me they probably do have some more card draw in their hand. there's the Rockstar Stitch. So it would be really good to top deck a Let It Go here to get rid of this Stitch. They're going to trade the Maleficent into the Felicities, which is totally fine with me. We draw another Felicities, which I could ink. Yeah, I'm going to ink it, and then hopefully I can get an inkable next turn so I can play this Hades. But I am just going to quest with everything. Might be better to not quest with some things, but I just want to put the pressure on to say, hey, I'm close to the win condition, like show me what you've got basically. And if they can't deal with this board, or if they don't play a lot of units this turn, then our Hades is going to get rid of the Stitch and they're going to lose a lot of tempo. So there's a Simba, it's going to allow them to draw another card. So I'm happy with an inkable here, or any form of card draw. Yeah, I could even sing Let It Go with Jasmine if I had another card, but I don't think that is it's a very good play at this stage. I definitely just want the inkable off the top deck. There's the Elsa, so we do have to keep in mind of a Shift Elsa, but I'm not sure if they're playing that because their deck seems to be more leaning towards an aggro style, whereas the Shift Elsa is more of a control style card, so I'm not going to play around it. And maybe that'll come back to bite me, maybe it won't. I could just get rid of this Stitch now with the Maximus. Or I could do this, I could hit this Maximus into the Simba, and then I can ink this Be Our Guest, and then I can play Hades to remove this Stitch, which removes a lot of tempo from them. However, I am in top deck mode now, but that should be fine. I can quest with this Stitch, and I can quest with this Jasmine, which will then heal the Maximus that I just made to take damage, back to full health, and then we can pass, and then we're looking quite good. So even if the opponent does clear this Stitch, we still have enough quest on the game to board, to win the game. Opponent seems to only have. Okay, they I think they made a misplay there. I think it's better to play the friends on the other side, just to get the options up first. There's a Rafiki, which is awful for me, but they have already used the Elsa. And yeah, that'll be game. I have 5 quests on board, and they didn't manage to clear our board, unless there's another rush card, which they don't have. So it doesn't matter what we top deck, they have no ink left. Just waiting for them to end the turn, and then we can quest with everything and close to get out game number 1. Okay, opponent took a minute there, but there's the concession, and there's the victory for game 1. Okay, after a very dominant game number 1, we're going to go into game number 2 here. The Mulligan is not looking too good again, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of most of it. I like keeping the Felicities, it's a very good aggression tool. Maybe 2 of them is a bit overkill. We do get the Flounder and the Maximus, so we do have a turn 1, 2, 3. I can maybe ink this second Felicities, since I... Do I want to ink the second Felicities? I think I will. Felicities is a great tool against Amber, especially. In the last game I forgot to mention, because it has the free attack on a turn 2 drop, and the Simba has free defense on a 2 drop, you can trade them into it very effectively. And that's its main use, really. Simba is a very popular card, and I reckon it will be for the first set. So Felicities is a good counter to that card, and also just having free attack is just very strong. So we are playing against Emerald, so it looks to be another aggro deck, which means I maybe don't want to ink the second Felicities. There's a Sergeant Tibbs there. We have 2 Robin Hoods, so I can go ahead and ink this one. And then we will play the Flounder just to get something on board. And it's important to kind of keep track of what they're playing. So if they do play another unit, or if they don't, I can maybe decide if I want to ink the second Felicities or not. That's kind of the only question in my head right now. But then if I don't ink the Felicities, then what am I going to ink instead is the better question. I'm going to ink the Aladdin there. So we're playing against Ruby Emerald. They miss out on the turn 2 drop. So now I've drawn the Mickey, it's very easy for me to ink the Felicities, since I know I can play Mickey on 3 or Maximus on 4, or the other way around. So I can just go ahead and play the Felicities, and then I am going to just clear this Sergeant Tibbs, just do a trade. I just want to get ahead on the board, and then I want to stay ahead on the board until I can close out the game. That's kind of the simplest way to put this deck. And a 1-for-1 trade with even stats, it's totally fine. They did get 1 quest point out of it, but that is just the advantage of going first. And they did miss their turn 2 drop, so I'm feeling quite good. There's a Peter Pan, that's an evasive card, which we do have Robin Hood for. So we can ink this Let It Go. And then I will play the Mickey. And then I will use this ability to ramp us up 1 extra ink, and then I will quest because I kind of want them to hit into it, ideally. And then with the extra ink from the Mickey, it gets me 1 step closer to that Robin Hood. I did already ink a Robin Hood, but I didn't know that they were going to be using an evasive package, so that's kind of the reason for that. Obviously, if you're playing the best of 3 format, it's best to kind of keep in mind what deck and what cards your opponents are playing, so then you can play the Mulligan a lot more effectively, and just play the game effectively, basically. This evasive unit is going to be quite annoying to deal with, but we have the tools to do it, so I'm not too worried. They are going to return their own card to their hand, which I think is probably a misclick, but you know, we take those. Go through there, so they are on 4 ink as well. There's our Hades, which I actually think I will just play. What's my discard pile looking like? Just a flounder right now. So what I can do is I can play this Hades, take this flounder back, and then just ink it. I think that's fine, because I kind of like all these cards, so I don't really want to ink any of them. So that's quite good for me, and then I can just quest with both of these. They have no units on the board, and I don't think they have many rush tools, if any, other than the Maui, but that's totally fine. If they play the Maui, we can just trade it back with Hades. Like I say, Hades is very good at looping itself, so we don't mind sending it to the discard pile, or I don't really know what we're just going to call it discard pile. I don't know what the official term for it is, but we don't mind sending it to the discard pile because we know we can just add it back. And just keep doing that throughout the whole game, basically. And 3/2 stat line is fine. So they're going to play a Mad Hatter. I don't really want to attack into that, so what I can do is I can just use Let Go. I don't really want to let it quest for free either, so I'm going to ink this Be Our Guest, and then I am just going to use Let Go. The other card that I'm probably the most scared of is the Cusco and the Genie. The Genie we can get rid of with the Robin Hood, but the Cusco we can just trade into normally, but it is just going to get its free quest points off. You know, like we should be used to by now, and you should get used to, because I feel like Cusco Emerald Aggro is going to be one of the most popular decks at locals, or in the early stages of the game, mainly just because it's a rare, and it's very good. So we're going to lose 1 quest point there from the Rapunzel. That's totally fine, there's our own Rapunzel. Opponent has less cards than us, so we don't really want to use the Robin Hood. We can play a Jasmine. I don't need to ink anything. I think our most expensive cards is 7, so we can stay at 6 until we need to play the 7, gives us more options in our hand. I don't want to play as Rapunzel because I kind of want something to take damage first, so I can use the card draw. I can utilize the card draw a bit better. So I will play Jasmine. We are going to miss out on the initial heal, but just having it there to heal after it quests is very good as well. And then we're going to keep up the pressure by questing with all our other units. It's always important to keep in mind that if you're even on cards in your hand and you play Robin Hood, you will go down to less, so you will draw the extra card. Always important to make sure that you're getting the card draw out of the Robin Hood, because that's mainly what the card's there for. It's for the extra card draw, and it can deal with the evasives, which is great, especially in this matchup. I didn't really what that card did. Whenever one of your opponent quests this turn, each opponent loses 1 law, so we'll be losing 1 law there, so kind of like a free law swing for them. They haven't got very wide boards, so the card's not too effective, and also it allows us to get into range to use the Robin Hood. They did just ink, so that's fine. And there's a second Peter Pan, which we did see earlier on. So that gives me the perfect reason to play Robin Hood this turn. We're not going to get a card draw, but we can deal with this evasive, which is what we want. Rapunzel is going to hit into our Mickey, so they are fighting for the board, which I think might be a slight misplay. There's the Hades. We're not going to use it just yet, so we will play Robin Hood. And I'm thinking if there's a way... Yeah, so I'm thinking I'll play the Robin Hood this time. We won't get the card draw, but that's fine. We can quest with the Felicities, and then we can use support on the Hades. And then we can just use the Hades to trade into the Rapunzel. And then we can quest with this Jasmine. Opponent has no cards in hand, so we have that over the opponent. And we have a stronger board, so once again we've done exactly what this deck wants to do. Get ahead on the board early and then stay ahead and keep the pressure up until the opponent just kind of crumbles, or you close the game out before they can get to their win condition, which in this case we've done a fantastic job of not letting them get to their win condition. With Emerald they want to be questing from the get-go basically, and them missing turn 2 was absolutely brutal for them, and now they're just kind of top decking 1-cost cards, which we don't necessarily care about. So we can hit our Robin Hood into the pit pan to trade it, which establishes our board even further. Then we can play Rapunzel to heal all 3 from the Robin Hood, which will allow us to draw 3 cards, so now we're 6 cards in hand, and we can even play the Stitch next turn to play another 2 cards. Thinking if I want to play a Maximus here, I think I do, so I will ink a Maximus to play a Maximus. Our hand's a little bit more healthy, so we don't mind spending 2 cards to establish that board a bit further. We'll get rid of the 2 attack with Tims, it doesn't matter, but we'll do that anyway. We will quest with the Jasmine, don't need to worry about the heal, and we'll quest with the Felicities. And then we're looking like we have game on board once again, in a very quick manner as well. We've done that very rapidly, we've suffocated our opponent as quickly as we could. There's another evasive, but it's too little too late. Opponent's probably just going to quest for Tibbs and then pass the turn. And just like that, that is game number 2 secured. Okay, final game, game number 3 here, going second again. Our hand looks a lot better than it has in the other 2 games, so I'm going to actually... No, I'm going to get rid of this Hades, we definitely don't need it. We can keep the Felicities and the Simba since they're fine on turn 3, and also we can kind of react to what our opponent's doing since we're going second. We have Stitch for the turn 1, and yeah, it's an okay start. We've had 2 very strong games on the first 2 here. Looks like we're playing against Tamatoa, so probably an item deck. So I'm just going to ink this Eye of the Fates, just because I want to find basically the Hades and the let it go, and I think Eye of the Fates might be a bit too slow because we want to end this game quite quick before they can pull their combo off. If you don't know, they're going to basically play Ariel, and then what is the card called? Maurice, and then they're going to loop Ariel readies and card draw with Maurice basically. So we definitely don't need to be aggressive with the Felicities, so we can ink that, and then I prefer to play these Simbas here. So I'll play a Simba and I'll put it in bodyguard mode just to... Oh, I misclicked, but ideally you'd want to put that in bodyguard mode to kind of protect the Stitch. It doesn't really matter though, because we will be able to heal with Rapunzel or Jasmine. It would have been better to stack some damage up on the Simba. Oh, we are playing against Emerald Sapphire, so maybe everything I've just said about their deck is wrong, but that's fine. So there's the trade into the Stitch, which will ramp them up by 1. There's a Be Our Guest, we have 2 in hand, so we can ink one of them, and then we can play a second Simba. I'll put this one in bodyguard mode, click the right thing this time, and then I'll quest with both cards. Kind of want to get to that accelerated board state, like I emphasize in every game. We need to get a very strong board, and we need to keep that strong board until the end of the game. And in our hand we do have the tools to do it. We have the Rapunzel to heal. Even if you draw 1 card, it's okay. You kind of do want to aim for the 3, but 2 is great as well. 1 is kind of something you'd want to stir away from, but not too bad. There's a Cusco already, so it seems to be like some ramp kind of aggro, which is very cool actually. So there's a Hades, we can't ink that. I will ink this Be Our Guest, and then I can maybe draw 1 with Rapunzel. I think it should be fine. I actually am going to do 1 with the Rapunzel. Draw us 1 card, another Hades, so we've got 3 Hades in hand, which isn't too good, but that also makes it so the Cusco can't just kill a Simba for free. And then we'll quest. We're already at 6, so even though their opponent is playing quite an aggressive style, we're already so far ahead of them, and then you have to do so much to come back. We can hit the Cusco with both our Simbas, they'll both take 2 damage, and then Jasmine will fully heal our whole board. So once again, just that very strong heal factor to keep our units alive, to maintain that strong board state that we've established from the start of the game. 7 ink from our opponent on a Hades, which is going to get rid of a Rapunzel, which is fine for me. There's a Robin Hood. I think I'm fine to ink this Robin, because I'm definitely playing the Jasmine, and then I kind of just want to get to these Hades. If I could do 3 times back to back to back with Hades, then that is fantastic. Make sure to order correctly, so we're going to hit both the Simbas into the Cusco to get rid of it. Cusco's a super annoying card that we wouldn't be able to Hades, so that's kind of our priority, is getting rid of these cards. We are going to get traded out from the Cusco's ability, which is totally fine. Then we're going to quest with the Stitch, and then we can Jasmine and heal up our whole board again. So just keeping that tempo going. This Hades is a slight problem, but like I say, as long as we get an equal card, we can do 3 turns back to back to back Hades, which should buy us so much time and momentum that we shouldn't have to worry too much. There's a Robin Hood. Opponent's going to draw a card for that, but that's totally fine. There's a Maleficent, which we can ink, and now we're just going to end up playing a load of Hades. Get rid of that Hades, and then we're going to quest. No need to heal. I'm going to quest with the Stitch as well. I don't mind if the Robin Hood hits into the Stitch, and then we can just trade it with the Jasmine. And then if the opponent plays anything big, we can just Hades it again. There's Eye of the Fates, so maybe they'll start questing with the Robin Hood. There's 2 Eye of the Fates, so they might start questing with the Robin Hood, because they can quest for 4. If they do that, then I'll just Hades it. I could hit, I'll misplay it again from the opponent there, but you know, it happens, the game's still very new and early, so if this is you in this situation, make sure to use both the Eye of the Fates first, so that your Robin Hood's questing for 2 more. There's the Shame Concession, it looks like. I'm going to add that in the video anyway, just because I feel like we had so much tempo off of the 2 Hades in hand that we would have closed that game out more times than we would have lost it. That was all for today's video. I have lots more content coming soon. If there's any decks that you want to see guides on, then check the channel, or if there's none there, go ahead and comment and I'll definitely get around to it, and I'll see you in the next one.